Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today, we're going to learn about earth science. So sit back and enjoy learning. Today, we're going to learn about faults, earthquakes, and faults. It is part of the lesson in Earth and Space in grade 8. So, our learning target at the end of this video lesson is I can explain the different types of faults. The outline of our lesson are the following: background and information, movements on the Earth's surface, parts of faults, types of faults, and how movement along a fault generates an earthquake. Before we begin and understanding and learning about the faults, let us recall the general structure of the Earth. So as you can see in this picture, the figure shows the visualization of the internal structure of the Earth. So let us identify the parts or layers of the Earth. First is the crust. It's the topmost and thinnest layer of the... Siguro pwede nating isipin yung egg, tama? I always use this egg or hard-boiled egg para i-compare yung structure ng Earth. Like, yung shell ng egg para siyang crust ng Earth. Tapos, yung white portion of an egg para siyang ito, yung red portion. Tapos yung yellow is yung core, yun naman yung yellow yolk ng egg, tama? So we have these two types of crust. We have continental crust and oceanic crust. Okay? Next, let's proceed to mantle. Ito na yung sinasabi kong white part or white portion ng egg. This is the thickest layer of the Earth where convection current occurs. This is the mantle where convection current occurs and the reason why we have this movement of tectonic plates. Yun yung dahilan bakit tayo nagkakaroon ng mga earthquake, bakit tayo nagkakaroon ng pagputok ng bulkan, because these are what we call convection current. Para siyang kumukulong tubig, pero hindi ito tubig. These are molten rocks. Okay? Kumukulo yan. Lagi yang nagkakaroon lagi diyan ng convection current. Pag sinabi natin current, continuous, constant yan. Tapos, pag yun ay napuno, pag yun ay nagkaroon ng so much pressure, yung mga bulkan na yung sumasabog, yung mga tectonic plates na yung nagsishake. Okay? Another part of the general structure of the Earth is the core. So we have these two parts of a core. We have here the inner core and the outer core. So inner core and outer core. The innermost layer is divided into solid inner core and liquid outer core. So si inner core, according to the scientists in science, we have here a solid inner core. At ito namang outer core ay considered as liquid. Okay? So, another part of the general structure of the Earth is the lithosphere. It is the crust and the upper portion or uppermost part of the mantle together form the solid rocky sphere. Okay? So now, we're done with the background information, which the Earth's crust is broken into huge blocks called plates. So yun yung kailangan nating malaman, that yung Earth is composed of plates. Are called plates because tectonic plates. Okay? We generally use the term tectonic plates kasi nga para siyang mga flat surface at ito ay nagsishake, nagmo-move from one place to another. The movement of the Earth's surface. If you're going to take a look the following picture, we have here no stress. Ibig sabihin, walang motion or walang movement ang tectonic plates. Dito naman sa second picture, we have here the compression. And the third compression, meaning tectonic plates or the crust are compressed. No? Parang naitulak at saka nagkakaroon siya ng bulging. Dito naman sa pangatlo, we have here the tension. Pag sinabi nating tension, nai-stretch, no? Parang naghihiwalay yung dalawang tectonic plates. And here, in the last picture, we have here the shearing. Meaning by shearing, there are sliding both tectonic plates. Now, let us identify the parts of the fault. Pag sinabi nating parts, then we will learn more about why there are movement, bakit nagkakaroon ng shaking, bakit nagkakaroon ng pagbabago ng landforms, no? So, let us identify first the parts of a fault. So, a rock structure where a block of rock moves with respect to another. So, let's identify the parts. First is the fault line. So, the line that you can see in the fault, that's what we call the fault line. Fault line is the trace of the fault. Pag nakakita tayo ng fault line, ibig sabihin, merong mga tectonic plates doon na active. Ibig sabihin, merong possibility na itong landform na to ay maaaring mag-shake or maaaring magkaroon ng lindol. Okay? Next, there's what we call the hanging wall. When we say hanging wall, it is a part of the fault leaning on the footwall and the portion immediately above the fault. You may ask, sir, anong ibig sabihin ng footwall? The footwall is the opposite side of the hanging wall, and that is here. Okay? So this is the portion that is being leaned on and it's below the fault. It has a wider base than the hanging wall. So meaning, this one, the hanging wall is leaning to the footwall immediately above the footwall. Nasa ibabaw si hanging wall. Tapos si footwall naman, yun yung opposite ng hanging wall. Siya naman yung medyo mas wide yung base na portion or another part of the fault is the dip. It is the angle that the fault cuts through the soil layers, usually in reference to the horizontal axis. Okay? So, let us now discuss the different types of fault. First type is what we call the deep slip fault. It refers to the faults where movement of blocks is parallel to the dip of the fault surface. So, we have these two types of deep slip fault. First is what we call the hanging wall up. The second one is the hanging wall down. So, from the word itself, hanging wall up. Pag sinabi nating hanging wall up, this hanging wall can move upwards. Okay? Pwede siyang mag-move paitaas. Parang dalawang libro. If this is the footwall and this is the hanging wall, so hanging wall will rise. So pwede siyang mag-move paitaas. Another type of hanging wall up is the thrust. This is what we call thrust or we call gentle slope, but it's still considered as a hanging wall up. However, when the hanging wall moves down, yun na yung tinatawag nating hanging wall down. So ito lang yung dalawang type ng deep slip fault. When we say deep slip fault, this refers to the fault where movements of blocks is parallel to the dip of the fault. Parallel doon sa fault line. Okay? So, let's continue. Now, the normal fault is when this hanging wall, okay, kapag si hanging wall ay bumaba. It is formed by the tensional stress that pulls rock apart. Hanging wall moves down relative to the footwall associated with divergent plate boundaries. Pag si hanging wall ay bumaba, that's what we call the normal fault. Ano naman ang ibig sabihin, ano naman ang tawag kapag si hanging wall ay umakyat? Abnormal ba? Hindi. Si normal fault on the coast, ito yung example ng normal fault on the coast of the Somerset, England. So if you're going to observe this picture, this is the hanging wall, this is the footwall. So hanging wall moves down. Bumaba yung hanging wall. Okay? Maaaring because of shaking, maaaring because of water. Medyo malambot yung lupa dito kaya bumagsak itong hanging wall. Tama? Tapos naiwan yung footwall. Okay? So ngayon, as I said earlier, ano ang opposite ng normal fault? Hindi abnormal, okay? Ang opposite niya ay what we call reverse fault. So reverse fault is formed by compressional forces that push the plates toward each other. Hanging wall moves upward relative to the footwall. Okay, balikan natin si normal fault. Kapag normal fault, maaaring si hanging wall ay bumaba or si footwall ay umakyat. Okay? Maaaring ganon. Ngayon, kapag naman reverse fault, maaaring si hanging wall ay umakyat tapos si footwall naman ang bumaba. Ibig sabihin, hanging wall will always moves upward relative to the footwall. Okay? Yun naman yung reverse. So as I said, we have two types of fault: deep slip fault, which is reverse fault, and normal fault. Okay, another type of deep slip fault is what we call the thrust fault. The thrust fault is a type of a reverse fault whose dip is less than 45 degrees. Okay, ito yung tinatawag nating gentle slope. Okay, kapag mas mababa sa 45 degrees yung angle, tawag natin doon thrust fault. This is an example of a thrust fault, okay, or hanging wall up, where this hanging wall moves upwards, kaya naitulak itong footwall. Okay? So next, another type of fault is strike-slip fault. Result of sideways movement of blocks of rocks. Blocks move laterally. So this is what we call the shearing. Kanina pinakita ko yung shearing. Yung pag-move ng tectonic plates, hindi na siya parallel. It is considered laterally, no? Nagsa-slide na silang dalawa. Okay? Regardless what direction they are moving. Pero ang movement nila ay lateral. This is an example of a strike-slip fault in San Andreas Fault. So, kung mapapansin niyo yung picture na to, this one, okay, maaring nag-move siya pakaliwa or pakanan, tapos yung opposite side ng fault ay nag-move din sa opposite direction, no? So, parang dumulas. That's what we call the shearing or strike-slip fault. Okay, so the active fault are known to have recently generated earthquakes within the last 10 years and may still continue to generate earthquakes. Okay? Recently generated earthquakes. For the past 10 years, kapag yung fault ay yung fault ay nagkakaroon ng earthquake, then considered active fault yun. Ngayon, it can only be considered inactive fault which they do not show signs of ever having generated an earthquake in the last 10 years. Kapag yung fault na yon, for the past 10 years, hindi nagkaroon ng earthquake or any kinds of shaking, then considered inactive. But, it may possibly generate an earthquake in the future because we always remember that Earth is geographically active. Meron tayong core, meron tayong mantle, merong convection current na nangyayari sa ilalim ng crust. Kaya kahit na sa loob ng 10,000 taon hindi nagkaroon ng earthquake, in the near future magkakaroon magkakaroon talaga ng shaking or earthquake. Okay? So that's what we call the inactive fault and active fault. Ngayon, if we're going to study the Marikina West Valley Fault, ito na yung tinatawag nating West Valley Fault at ito yung pinag-aaralan ng mga scientist, volcanologist. Kailangan nating paghandaan yung the big one kasi dito magsisimula yun. Okay? If you're going to observe the map, this is the Marikina West Valley Fault. It composed of the following provinces and cities: Montalban, San Mateo, Marikina, Pasig, Taguig, Muntinlupa, San Pedro, Binan, Carmona, Santa Rosa, Calamba, Tagaytay, and Mindoro Oriental. Kaya kapag nagkaroon ng shaking sa loob or within this West Valley Fault, talagang mararamdaman din natin yung shaking. So we can't do anything about it. However, we can prepare for it. Okay? So, earthquake happens when two blocks of the earth suddenly slip past one another. So remember, merong tinatawag pag nag-compress yung dalawang tectonic plates, nagkakaroon ng earthquake. Kapag naman nagkaroon ng tension, nagkakaroon ng earthquake. Kapag nagkaroon ng volcanic eruption, magkakaroon na naman ng shaking or earthquake. At kapag nagkaroon ng shearing or moving sideways ng dalawang tectonic plates, nagkakaroon ng earthquake. So hindi natin mapipigilan ang paggalaw ng mga tectonic plates at hindi din totoo na dahil nagkakaroon tayo ng earthquake dahil umiikot ang mundo sa orbit or sa axis nito. Hindi. Walang relationship at hindi dahilan ang pag-ikot ng mundo kaya nagkakaroon ng earthquake. Hindi. The reason why we have earthquake because the two blocks of tectonic plates moving towards each other, moving apart, or moving sideways. Yun lang yung dahilan. Maliban doon, nagkakaroon din tayo ng earthquake because of volcanic eruption. Okay? So, that's the reason behind. For example, yung 6.3 magnitude nung nagkaroon ng lindol noong December 25, 2020. Tama? Nagulat na lang kami noon kasi nagkaroon ng shaking. So that's the end of our video lesson. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.